Okay. And then, so was the goal for adopting this kind of right size packaging, case erecting, was it to get rid of that void in the empty boxes, on the top, or was it to save on resources? What was the main, I guess, primary reason for going
Yeah,
this way?
it's interesting. We've seen a lot of benefits from it, but the original, the impetus of going with the Ranpak solution was we were really looking to automate our pack out operation. So we pick really fast using a different automation system. On the picking side, we use auto storage goods to person system. And so we're picking at a pretty high volume throughput, but we were sending a lot of that stuff we would pick directly into a tote. And a lot of those totes, like a blue plastic tote, would go directly to our customers. And
Hmm.
that's a business model that we use. And we put a label on that tote and nobody touches it again. But a lot of times our customers want that in a repack box. So just think a brown corrugated box with, a shipping label on it. We would take those totes and we'd convey them to a packing area where we would then take it out of the tote, put it into a box, seal it, put a label on, that whole process. What we're able to do with the Ranpak solution is we have the format, builds the tray, and then we pick directly into that tray and then send that tray downstream on conveyance where it goes through the lidding machine, and then you have that completed package. So some of the other benefits we got outside of eliminating the time it took us to do that pack out function is we really streamlined that bottleneck part of it. And then, yeah, we got these other benefits as well, where we got rid of we put air pillows in before to make sure the
Hmm.
stuff stayed safe in transit, but you don't need that with the Ranpak solution because it's getting rid of that air and things shuffling around. So it's been a nice positive for us so far.
Yeah. And have you eliminated like those large plastic totes pretty much from this process?
Yeah, so the totes are still used for the business segment where it's staying in the tote, delivering straight to the customer. And then we have
Okay.
a few box sizes. So we had a large box regime before where we used like I think 14 different size corrugated boxes to best fit the product. Now we have, I think, four trays, Brian, where we're able to pick onto those four different tray sizes and get a wide array of products. But there's still some that ride that blue tote and go out to packing, but it's the minority of the processing, and that's for some really large orders that we're just not running through the system. But for all intents and purposes, yeah, we're running it through the Ranpak system.
Very cool. And that eliminates that human element, correct, of the hand packing at the end.
Right.
Um, okay. Yeah, that's very cool. Um, so you mentioned, the main reasons and then some other benefits. Is there a strong sustainability benefit to going this route?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen a couple pieces. So the one that I guess there were two that we thought we'd see right away as we were going was one, eliminating those air pillows. While they're recyclable and we still use them at a large scale, in this case, getting rid of them, you don't have to rely on someone to recycle it downstream. And then the second part really is we're just using a lot less corrugated, right? So
Yeah.
I think just shrinking down to that right size box, we're reducing our corrugate usage and spend, which helps even as you think about like down. So those are my two pieces of it. But as I think about that downstream, we ship majority of our revenue we ship on our private fleet. But
Okay.
we also use significant amounts of third-party carriers, and one of our big partners is FedEx. So if you think about all of these boxes that we're loading onto a FedEx trailer, we'll use less FedEx trailers that are shipping out of our DC because we're more
Hmm.
cubically efficient. So that's like, it's not a direct benefit to Medline, but from an environmental perspective, that's great. And we, like that we're able to help in that way as well.
Yeah, of course. And Brian, I don't know if you have any comments on that of Rampac's stance on it being a more sustainable solution, or is the target really about that efficiency, and getting more product out the door?
Yeah, I'd say it's really both. I mean, Ranpak, we've been around for about 50 years. We've always been, highly focused on sustainability. We've always produced, fiber-based packaging solutions, whether it's void fill or wrapping or cushioning. And then, 7 or 8 years ago, when we invested more in the automation business, it was a nice, complement to that sustainability message, just because we are focused on right sizing. So inherently, using our software tools to do the analysis to determine the ideal footprint for the various cases and trays that we use, and then having the right sizing equipment reduce the volume of that exactly as how the items were packed, really enhances that sustainability profile.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely streamlines, right, the whole packing process. So I guess we'll kind of talk a little bit about adopting the new equipment. I feel like there's always some sort of struggle, right, as you kind of move away from one process to another, even when it's a better process. So any struggles that, either side you guys faced during this?
Yeah, like you said, right, with any change, there's the change management pieces that go through it, and there's always obstacles. I think the biggest one to start for us was just the integration and making sure that all of the handshakes across the numerous systems went well. I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
say it was unexpected, right? But it did take some time, right? Because we're talking Medline systems, or talking to our goods to person provider, and also then integrating with a conveyor system that has handshakes with the Ranpak system. So that was like step one, right? Making sure all those system integrations were in place. It took some time, but we got there, and I think that was pretty good. And then you're right, change management, right? Like getting the teams familiar with how the process was going to be different. One of the things like right away that we did to make the process easier, right? We're given this was our first site. We have two sites now. But at our first site was we realized like we were automating this box creation of building the tray, but then we had somebody doing the manual process of applying a sticker to that. And so we worked with our conveyor vendor, and we got like a ink printer that as it comes out of the tray erector, it puts the ink on there that has the barcode and saves that step. Well, that one seems like a really small step. It really made the change management a lot easier because it's just less, to do. All you have to do now is get the box to the spot where we're going to use it. You don't have to make sure you're doing the right barcodes because there's different barcodes based on the routing on the conveyor downstream. And so there's these other pieces to consider. So as we, went live, we learned that, we made those adjustments. And then learning, the interesting one, and for me at least, the one that I didn't expect, those two were kind of more expected, was just learning, the precision of the corrugated required, and just making some
Mm-hmm.
changes around that, but nothing that's been, insurmountable, certainly. I don't know, Brian, if you had anything to add there.
Yeah, I think in general, it's a with any automation, you can't just look at it as a pocket of efficiency. You have to, analyze how it fits into the overall flow. And I think, we're finding this a lot with AutoStore or any ASRS equipment that's been installed. I mean, there's a significant wave of that in the industry in general, where customers have seen the benefits of picking automation, but then it goes to a manual pack out process, and you get a little bit stalled there, and so you're gaining efficiency on the picking process, but then that efficiency is kind of moving over to an inefficient pack out process. So to Daniel's point, understanding that kind of the handshaking across all those systems is really important to make sure everything's kind of flowing at the same sequence. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that's a big takeaway for me.